What is the deal, beautiful people? My name is Ramon. Welcome to the channel. And before we get started today, I am smoking a Liga Privada number 9, one of my favorite cigars. In case you guys didn't know, I'm into cigars. Man, what a tasty stick. But anyway, today's topic is what makes a great photograph. And this is a wildly subjective and objective topic, depending on who you ask, when you ask, where you ask. Your answers may vary. So, of course, this is a heavy, opinionated topic, especially to me. So I've got a few bullet points on what I think as I've delved into my journey as a photographer, and really trying to learn the craft from all aspects. What I think, what I deem to be the ingredients of a good photograph. Number one, and I think this is probably the strongest thing about it, the most important, the most potent ingredient of a good photograph is without doubt a story. If you're not telling a story in your photograph, then you are wasting time. You're not only your time, but your would-be viewer's time. Would you consider people looking at photography a viewer? Maybe you understand what I'm saying. Story is everything. If you're not telling a story, then I'm not exactly sure what you're capturing, because according to me, my perspective is when you grab your camera, your number one goal is to freeze a moment in time and go back to that moment that you can no longer get back. It's gone. And go back to that moment whenever, however, wherever, and tell it again and have that moment come alive once again. And I think that's such a strong thing. And I get, this is why photography is so difficult for a lot of people, because they don't understand the notion that you should be telling a story. For some people, telling a story just goes back to we're talking traditional mediums like reading a book, screenwriting, screenplays, film. Photography is squarely in the middle of that, and I think it's important to understand that. My number two here is not the most important, but this can help, and I'm talking about the technical aspects of a photograph. Proper focus, making sure you can see the subjects well. And this is not a mainstay. This is not a requirement. It's not a prerequisite. We've seen images from some of the greats, people consider the greats, Bresson and whatnot. There are a ton of iconic photos throughout the entire history of photography that are not in focus. And it's not so much that they weren't in focus because the photographer didn't know what they were doing. It's just that the tools at that time, the cameras, didn't have the ability to do it. But yet still, these are timeless photographs from timeless photographers. So focus can help. Composition is another one that can really help a story and help a photo. And composition is an entirely different conversation on its own. And these things, when you put them together, I think can make your story that much stronger, that much easier to get across with the message of what you're saying. I also think my number 3 topic is the photo needs to be authentic to the subject. Your goal is to tell that story as authentic as it can be told. And let me say your goal from a portrait photographer. This may be less like in composition type work where you're creating that story as you go. But for me, in my portrait and my street stuff, I want to be very authentic to the story of capturing the image. I want it to feel, I want it to be moody, like it was there. If you're talking portraits, I want you to be able to see that person's personality shine through. And my number 4 point, which I think is super important, is it needs to be meaningful to the photographer. You know, there's a lot of art that I've come across where you just don't get it. But as you delve into the story of the artist and you hear the narrative from the artist of why they did this and why they took that photo. You look at it and you stare at it and you're like, wow, I get that. I can see that. That's kind of dope. And I think as long as the photo is meaningful to you as the photographer, it's easier for people to grasp it, especially if they know you as an artist. They trust your perspective and your storytelling. It's usually a lot more pleasing to grab. I'm going to show you 3 examples of imagery throughout the years that I've taken on my journey. And some of these, 2 of these photos are about 4 years old, and the others 3 years old. And I chose these particularly because these what I would consider as my work from yesteryear, and I'm so much farther away from this, technically speaking, as a photographer. But they're still so meaningful to me, and I'm hoping that you can kind of grasp the authenticity of the image and why I think it's a great photo. So the first one here is a photo of Snow, who some of you may or may not know based on if you follow Lifestyles Defined as a brand. Snow and I went to school. We went to high school together, and then after that parted ways, and then found each other through gaming and Facebook, and then we've been inseparable since. And I consider Snow to be a brother, a very close person of mine, and we've gotten to know each other's stories throughout our friendship and our brotherhood. And it's getting to know Snow is a very empowering thing. His story and his trials and his tribulations, and really how he continues to overcome. And this photo was taken on, I would say, a street walk, if you will. And I'm not going to tell you this was a totally planned photo. You know, I saw this light and I said, yeah, I need you to stand here. And there are a few things that really about this photo that it really means the world to me. And this is, I'm really calling back to those 4 pillars that I explained earlier in the video. This tells a story to me. It's a very moody image. It's lit by one light, and it's dead in the winter, dead in the nighttime. It's probably like 7 or 8 o'clock. And if you've been to New York, you know by 5 o'clock, there's no light in the sky. So it really allowed that key light off to his left to illuminate just what I needed to illuminate from. I've got a few different frames of this, but this was particularly my one. There's a very mysterious nature about this photo. As you can tell, not only is he not looking at us, but you know, he's looking away. He's gazing off to the side, but you can see just enough of his eye to really connect you to the photo somehow. And that's his silhouette, and you can tell he's wearing a hoodie, and you can tell he's wearing a Jets hat. Snow loves his hoodies, and he loves his Jets, right? And this is all you can see, and then you can kind of see that his eyes aren't particularly just black. Snow's got some beautiful eyes, and all of these things kind of come together in this photo. And when I look at this photo, me as a friend, as a brother of Snow, I can almost see his entire story here. And what I take away from this photo is, here is an excellent human being. Here is a gentle heart, a huge heart. Here's a man that's been through the worst of the worst, and he's still standing. This is what this photo means to me. And every time I see it, I think this is currently his Facebook profile picture. It's been for a while. He doesn't change his profile picture much. But Snow and I never spoke about this picture and how meaningful it is to me. And I don't quite know if this photo is as meaningful to him. And this is my point. I didn't need to know that. I was able to portray everything about Snow through this picture. And I am totally satisfied with the depth of this picture from my perspective. And this is what makes it such a winner to me. This is what makes this a great and a timeless photograph to me. And hopefully, now that you've got some background, you can see this image a little differently. Here we have a photo of Tawan. Again, if you guys have been on our other channels, you would have seen Tawan, no doubt. Tawan, I consider another brother of myself, and we we've developed a very close relationship over the years, and I mean we're pretty inseparable as well. Where you find me, you'll usually find Tawan. That's just how it is, and from this image, you could say, here's a very flashy individual. No doubt, Tawan's a flashy person. Um, you'll never find him off access. Always well put together, always well groomed, always dripping, as the kids would say, in drip. Do you know what it is? You know what it is. And you see his rings, his bracelet, his well groomed bear, and this is Tawan. Through and through, this is Tawan. And this Tawan means a lot to me as a person. I can tell you, looking at this photo, you can tell this is a big guy. I think Tawan's like 6'5" or something like that. What I like about how I captured this image, I took a big guy and I really isolated parts of it. So there's no silhouette of him, but there's just enough of his personality showing through. And there's this smirk, if you will, because he's a very happy person. He's a very positive person, and he's always so chill, and I was able to capture this. And again, this was a series of images that I have here, but this was my favorite because you can see some people would say that Tawan's an extra kind of guy, but you could only say such a disrespectful thing if you don't know him. He's not extra. He knows how to indulge in his details, and I think that's something that not a lot of people are comfortable with. Just be yourself, be comfortable in your skin, and this is totally Tawan. There's that smirk, there's that hand gesture. This image right here is so authentic to who he is, and it's authentic to who I know that he is. And I made the decision to remove the color from this image. There's the color of his jewelry, there's his skin tone, there's the color of the hat. I didn't want any of that. I just wanted a black and white image of who this man is and really his aura. And I thought that this was such a dope image, and in our years to come, this is how I will remember Tawan as we get older, as we're all 80 and gray and we look back. This is how I will forever remember Tawan. And again, the image is authentic. It tells a story of who he is, and it's so very meaningful to me. And there's a good bit of technical technical composition here that really helps the image. It's in focus well. The hands are not totally out of focus, but in focus enough where you can see the details. And there is some eye contact, but just not enough. And what I really want here is you as the viewer wouldn't have known. This is not a pretty Instagram model with the crazy light eyes and connected, and you're like, oh my God, I can see into her soul. No, I want you to take the entire image encompassing, and this is one of my favorite images. I really think this is a dope one. You let me know what you think about this as well. Here we have Mr. Pouncey. Mr. Pouncey is the father of one of my best friends. And this story goes quite a ways back when my parents first came to America, fresh off the boat from Barbados. I had an accent, didn't have the Jordans, didn't have the gear. It was very difficult for me to make friends, but Mr. Pouncey's son was one of two of my only friends in junior high school, and they really aided my acclimation to this country. It was a very overwhelming thing, being bullied, being made fun of, and you really feel like you're alone outside of the walls of your home. And Mr. Pouncey and his wife, they would invite me over to the house, and I'd hang out with Takai. That's my man's names, and I'll never forget those experiences. I learned American culture through them. I learned that not everyone was as harsh as it would seem, and we've had a beautiful friendship throughout the years, and I really owe a lot to Mr. Pouncey for that welcoming energy and really allowing me to just understand that it's okay, right? And here, many years later, I circled back because he is a painter, And what you see here is he's painting a picture of his grandson, and this is the older brother's son. And I really wanted to capture, the goal was to capture him in his passion. And I think a lot connects here. This is a very meaningful image to me, because in this very same basement that this image was taken is where we would hang out as kids. And we would do everything from AOL chat rooms to play Madden all day, play NBA all day, Final Fantasy. We go out and back, play ball, come back and just lay out on the floor in this basement. And it's such a safe space for me, this basement. And this is something you hear a lot, these words, safe space, right? But this is something that means so much to me, a place that means so much. And this is his home, and it means a lot for him as well. So the goal was to capture him in his space, creating. And here you have him painting this image that came out amazing. This painting, it's currently up for sale. I'll have to, I don't know if he had his up on a website, but I'll have to find where you guys can see the final product. But he's painting an image of his grandson, or a portrait of his grandson. So you see the image, the photo off to the left. You see his color palette off to the right. In one hand, he's got the paintbrush, the tools, and the other hand, he's actively painting. And you see that look of intensity on his face. There's composition adds to this. There's so much that's going on here. How I chose to take this. This was taken with a 20 millimeter image. A 20 millimeter lens. This was taken right under the canvas, so you get that down low, very strong posture. It's everything about this image I love, and this is authentic to who Mr. Pouncey is. And this is how I see Mr. Pouncey today, and this is how I will remember him for so many years to come. So, what makes a great photograph, I think, varies from artist to artist, and varies from critique to critique. But I chose to define what makes a great photograph from my perspective, and then we'll work outside. It doesn't have to always be sharp. It doesn't have to have these bokeh all over the place and crazy color grading. For me, it's about the story that I chose to capture before I captured that image. And then it's all about, how does it actually captivate? How does it resonate in the photo itself? And that's what I think makes a great photo. I want to hear from you guys. Hit the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. Again, like the video if you like it. Don't be a stranger. Hit that subscribe button. My name is Ramon, and I'm out of here. Peace.